Susan Williams. Now, Susan, she got 30 years to life. Life without the possibility of parole was on the table. I was a bit surprised that the judge went lenient on her. Love to get your thoughts on this sentence.
I thought the judge went lenient on her as well. I think that is one of the most compelling victim impact statements from this young lady, and that she had the courage to come out and say all of these things. And if Stefanko were my client, I would tell her, look, don't shake your head while something is being said that you don't agree with. It just does not go well with the judge, in my opinion, for her to sit there and shake her head when a minor child, well, a very young adult that was a minor at the time, is pouring her heart out to the judge. And, good for her for getting all of that off of her chest. She's hurt, she's angry, and it is a very grown-up thing for this young lady to be doing, just broadcast before everyone. And I have to take my hat off to that victim.
Yeah, I have to, too. I have to agree with you. And when I look at the case that the prosecution put on in this phase, they mentioned that she did this in front of her own children. The children were in the car. She put them in the car. She says in her statements to the mother, Chad Cobb's mother, that she was controlling Chad Cobb. She even says that. Cobb, he gets on the stand there and says basically he wasn't the one that strangled her. You can take that for what it is. So you put all those things together, and then the testimony of this particular victim of the case, the little girl, you put that all together. I thought for sure that she would get the same that Chad Cobb got. We have to remember, Chad Cobb pled guilty to the charges to get the death penalty off the table. He was facing the death penalty. So he said, okay, I will plead guilty to the charges and say that I did it. He elocuted to that in court, saying that he was the one that strangled Ashley Biggs in return for life in prison without parole. So maybe that's the reason that she was given a little less than Chad Cobb, who I think they were equally involved in this, and equally they should pay for this.
Oh, I agree 100%. The hand of one is the hand of all. You can't, the person who's already gotten life has nothing to lose, and so, I think at this point, it's pretty difficult to believe either one of them. And she's lucky to get what she got today, because, I think she's equally responsible. Had it not been for her actions, this thing would have never gone down the way it did.
This relationship, and she mentioned it, she was her worst self when she was with Chad. I think there was certainly testimony that there was physical abuse there. Chad used to abuse her. At some point, we heard she kind of gave as much as she was given. And sometimes when you get in these relationships, it's just two people. They just don't mix, and they bring out the worst in each other. Because since then, she seems to have turned a new leaf. She seems to be a decent mom. Her current husband took the stand. Some family friends took the stand talking about how she's a good mom and she does all these things and loves her children. What do you make of that? The fact that, I can't get a read on Erica Stefanko.
A lot of people have troubled marriages. They don't end up getting convicted of murder. It's a no-brainer. There was also testimony that she physically abused at least one of the children. So, that does not, it may be a mitigating factor, but lots of people are in stressful relationships where they don't get along and they don't end up getting convicted of murder, period.
Yeah, what's interesting, and then we'll move on from this. The only thing the judge mentioned when she delivered her sentence was the fact that she felt the defendant was remorseful. And there were a number of other things in terms of when you look at the statute there that could have been more aggravating factors. She didn't mention any of those. She really just said, I think this defendant is remorseful. And I'm wondering, there's been some criticism of judges sometimes at these sentencing that they come in and they already have their minds made up. And I think this feels like one of those instances, because what we heard in court today, you talk about abuse of the daughter, she mentioned some of that really awful abuse that we had heard in court, something really terrible that I won't even bother to mention now, but I think our viewers probably know what I'm talking about. Do you think the judge already made up her mind when she came into court?
If she did, that's her prerogative. She's a human being. Judges are human beings just like other people. And, you know, if the judge is there in that position for a reason, and if that was her, that's her job to figure out, you know, does she seem remorseful? Does she seem remorseful enough to get the exact same sentence? So when you think about it like that, you know, it's up to the judge. She went with her gut, and, you know, in the end, I think it's pretty fair. I still think she's every bit as culpable, but it's fair.
It is, and you know, 30 years is nothing to sneeze at. All right, Susan Williams, stand by. We're going to take a break right now. Coming up next, new details and haunting